Everyone, welcome to the Utility Accountability List webinar hosted by Solar United Neighbors and Energy and Policy Institute. We're excited to dig into a new tool that EPI created this year, the Utility Front Group Ad Tracker, and better understand where some of those utility dollars are going. So yeah, we have Carrie Ann Conroy and Shelby Green from Energy and Policy Institute here, and excited to dig in with them into this topic. Yeah, and I guess I should introduce myself. I'm Liz Veazey, Policy and Rural Energy Director at Solar United Neighbors. So I work on solar policy mostly in our mid-Atlantic region, DC, Maryland, Virginia, Florida, and Puerto Rico. And I actually live in Nebraska. Pass to Carrie Ann.
Thanks so much, Liz. Thanks for having us. Very excited to talk to you about this. I will share my screen so folks can see. Can y'all see this? And my many other tabs. Okay. Hi, my name's Carrie Ann Conroy. I'm a research associate at Energy and Policy Institute. My research focus is largely in Arizona and Nevada, predominantly focusing on Southwest Gas, one of the largest gas utilities in the country, with a little bit of research as well in Arizona Public Service and NV Energy. Formerly, I was a community organizer with the Try Harder campaign, rural cooperatives, looking at their contracts with Tri-State G&T, and I live in Gunnison, Colorado.
Cool.
Hey.
What do you can you make it like present it?
Oh, so presenter mode.
Yeah, slideshow view.
Thanks.
Nice. Thanks, Carrie Ann. And I'm Shelby. I'm a research fellow with the Energy and Policy Institute. I also joined around the same time as Carrie Ann. I'm focused more in the Southeast, so I'm covering Duke Energy in the Carolinas and Dominion in Virginia. And I'm also going to be focusing on North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia's energy policy at the state level as well. Before joining EPI, I studied process or chemical engineering. And then I also was a software developer for a tech startup. I am in Florida State Capitol, Tallahassee, and then my email is on here as well in case anyone would like to reach out about some of my research focus areas or just questions about how to use some of this technology that will go further in depth later in the presentation.
All right, so we have a quick agenda for you to check out here. We'll give an overview of our recent analysis of utility front groups and their spending as well as their ad campaigns. Then Shelby will go over the ad tracker tool. We'll have a discussion and Shelby will then give a tutorial of the tool. Then we'll look at the Facebook ad library, have an interactive scavenger hunt, create a word cloud, give a tutorial, and then talk about best practices for using the Facebook ad library. And if you have any questions or comments throughout the presentation, please drop them in the chat. Okay, so first, our recent analysis at EPI, the utility front group spending on disinformation advertising. It's important to note that disinformation is distinct from misinformation and that misinformation is misleading, but disinformation is intentionally misleading. So I think you can draw the conclusion that misinformation coming from utility front groups, who are front groups controlled, established, and or funded by utilities, is inherently disinformation. They are intentionally trying to mislead us by not disclosing their relationship to the utility that controls, established, or funded them. And so we found, using Shelby's tracker, that 14 utility front groups that we tracked had a total of $2.4 million in spending in the past year. And these are front groups that we had been looking at, that members of our team had been looking at for a long period of time, but we'd never done this analysis of looking at all of them, looking at shared campaign tactics or shared disinformation sharing tactics. And so here in the analysis, we found that there were definitely buckets or categories in which a lot of these front groups were using very similar messaging. In some examples, there were advertisements for preferred candidates in elections. A lot of examples of that from Citizens Energizing Michigan's Economy, and misleading false claims concerning alternative fuels such as renewable natural gas and hydrogen, often conflating them or equating them with fossil gas in terms of being able to sort of take over the market from fossil gas and take over that infrastructure, as well as marketing them as clean. Further, there were groups targeting people of color. I think most notably, Floodlight did an investigation on Natural Allies for a Clean Energy Future, in which we saw that they were looking to change the perception of gas through campaign advertising, utilizing people of color in their advertising to target Black and Latino voters. And then fighting bans on fossil gas was another category in which we saw a lot of advertising from various front groups. As you can see in the bottom left corner, Affordable Energy Coalition was focusing on a gas ban and said before the ban and after the ban, in this advertisement suggesting that without gas, we would not have the same reliability to our grid, et cetera, et cetera. So these are just a few examples of some of the advertisements. We'll share the analysis around as well. I hope you have the opportunity to look through it. It's really interesting. And then we also had suggestions that came out of the analysis, of course, appealing to state and federal regulators for greater utility transparency, with a lot of examples of groups that are already doing that work, and examples of where we see potential for it to start happening. But what the analysis was unable to do is scale up our understanding of how much each group was spending in real time. And that's what the ad tracker tool allowed for us. And so Shelby was able to recognize this as I was presenting to our team throughout the process of creating this analysis, and found or was able to access the code to create our tracker tool, which she can tell you more about.
Thanks, Carrie Ann. Yeah, we can go into the discussion first, actually.
Okay.
So we want to open up the floor. Feel free to go off mute, but basically just wanted to hear from you guys, especially with the wrap up of this past election. What kind of ads have you guys seen online, particularly from utilities or their front groups, or even candidates funded by utilities? So did you see anything while you're scrolling on Twitter or Facebook? Did you see like any sort of call to action or certain keywords? Just kind of curious if you guys have seen anything these past few months from these kind of groups.
Well, this is Liz, I guess. I actually have not seen a lot. I think my utility is a public utility, Omaha Public Power District, and they do spend money on ads, but I don't think they actually do any. I don't think they fund any groups involved in candidates in Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the only group they might be involved with, I think they're a member of EPRI, the Electric Power Research Institute. I don't think they're a member of the Edison Electric Institute, or they're a member of American Public Power Association. But anyways, I think that there's not a lot of awful front group spending by them, unless they're like doing it in a super duper secretive way and no one knows about it and like no one is seeing the ads. But yeah, I think that we definitely have seen this in some of our campaigns for clean energy with Solar United Neighbors in Florida, when we were fighting to save net metering and save solar. Florida Power and Light, FPL spends a ton of money on all of the things, all of the above. And so the ghost candidate schemes are sort of one thing that was scary in Florida. But I think in Florida, the FPL, and the utilities in general, right, are trying to say, oh, there's a lot of like framing of, oh, we care about equity. Like we can't have solar, or we can't have these other things because that burdens, the poorest customers with extra costs, which is not really true at all in most cases. And actually, if the utilities really cared, they would stop shutting off people's electricity, and they would like do other things to improve the quality of life of some of their poorest customers, but they don't do much of that.
This
Yeah.
is Matt. I've seen in Chicago, when I'm on Facebook and Instagram, is ComEd, my utility ComEd and Exelon, running a lot of ads highlighting various programs and charities that they're partnering with. And I've just been wondering lately, because it seems like it's just a lot, if they've ramped up those advertisements to boost their image in light of the bribery scandal here in Illinois that has just continued to make news with their, about a year ago, making that agreement with the Department of Justice and the continued investigation with certain lawmakers and the relationships with ComEd. So yeah, I've just been wondering if they've tried now to pivot and spend a lot more money on these advertisements.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Cool. Well, thank you guys for sharing. So I'm in Florida. I haven't really seen any ads from like Seniors Across America. Not many from like FPL or Duke, but I'm also in a territory where my city is our utility company. And the most ads I see from them are just like trying to push renewable natural gas or natural gas rebate programs. So they're definitely pushing natural gas, but they're not pushing like, well, I haven't seen them push any front groups or any certain candidates or anything. But it's really interesting, like the amount of money that these groups spend on PR. And I wonder if it's actually making a tangible impact on their reputation to the public, because like what the public may see online in terms of ads may not be what their experience is when they interact with their utility company. So yeah, that's a really good point that you brought up, Matt, of like, also, is there a way to look at this data and see like the timing of these ads and seeing like, are they spending more to try to do repair damage after, getting into a scandal, or just looking at the trends when it comes to spending on ads. So that was really interesting.
Yeah, it's exciting to think about the ability to look at these over the long term and start to recognize those patterns. I think that the tracker absolutely gives us much greater opportunity to do that. And obviously, doing this analysis, I've been seeing a lot of these advertisements. And Liz, what you're talking about in Florida, Seniors Across America, I think actually is one of the more probably successful, I would imagine. They're talking about the stealth solar tax, and they're very purposely being extremely confusing in the language, where if I were somebody, particularly an older person who maybe didn't know about the solar tax happening or what a solar tax was, I think I might very easily be misled by some of that.
Yeah, we definitely, our people were definitely seeing Seniors Across America ads and stuff. People were getting texts from them.
Wow.
Our folks were definitely sharing their stuff. So they were definitely spending a lot and getting it out there.
Yeah, and endorsing candidates.
Okay. So Carrie Ann, I'm going to switch over to my screen to do a brief tutorial. Okay. So what I'll be talking about basically is how to actually access this tool that we keep discussing. So if you go to the Energy and Policy website, which is energyandpolicy.org, you can go to Front Groups at the very top and then click Advertisement Tracker. This will take you to the Ad Tracker tool. So if you'd like to, you can actually click some of these links that we have here. This will take you to the ad library. This was the code that we used from Brown University. We kind of remixed it a little bit, put our own stuff in there. And then this is actually where all the methodology and the source code is stored for this tool. This data was refreshed on Monday. So these are the front groups that we are tracking, and you can actually click the top to sort by alphabetical order or also the number as well. And then if you also this is just like first glance, the group that we're tracking, how much ads they've ran and how much they've spent. What's interesting about, not interesting, kind of annoying about the data source, which is Facebook or Meta's ad library, is they don't give you an exact amount that was spent on ads. They just give you an upper and a lower range. So instead of trying to find like this median number, we just show the range spent for the ads. But this is just a basic table that gives you a brief glance. And then you can click on the individual group itself. And then this is almost kind of like a Wikipedia page in the sense that we've kind of put all the information that we know about a front group on its landing page. And then you can scroll down to get more information about how much the front group is spending in a certain region. So here we see that it's spending most of its money in Minnesota, but also in Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, DC. So quite a bit of money versus some other groups like Iowa. You can imagine most of their money is being spent. Not Iowa. Let's do New Jersey. Most of their money is actually just being spent in New Jersey. Okay, so that is how to access the tool and some information about where the data and the source code lives if you want to try to build it yourself as well. But we'll keep moving on. We have actually I think my screen stopped sharing. Let me try again. Here. Yes, now it's working. Okay, so we actually have a scavenger hunt. We'll see how much time we spend on it, but we thought it might be fun to actually try to make a word cloud of the messaging that is within the social media ads. So basically, we're going to break up into a couple of groups. And since there's like a few of us, whatever your last name is, you will pick that group. So my last name is Green. I'll pick Partnership for Energy Progress, and I will actually use the tool to figure out what the messaging has been for their ads. So
Do we want, maybe you and Matt can look at Partnership for Energy Progress, and Liz and I could look at, I would say Consumer Energy Alliance would be a fun one.
Okay, yeah, we can do that. And so, gosh, this is so annoying. Just to be clear about how to do this. So you'll go to the front group. And so, for example, let's pick Consumer Energy Alliance. You'll click Consumer Energy Alliance, and then you scroll down. And then you can access their information, so all of their ads, by clicking this link. This is where all their ads live. And then let's click on the first one for the details. So this one's talking about you shouldn't have to choose between filling up your gas tank and paying your family's bills. Tell DC regulators lower your gas prices. So the biggest things that stick out to me here is that they're talking to everyday citizens about the cost of gas prices and also their bills. And the call to action is to tell DC regulators to lower their gas prices. So I would just like copy a few words from here, and then I would paste them into our into our Google document, and then we'll make a word cloud through that. So I will share the link in the chat. That's pretty much how the process will go. So Carrie Ann and Liz, you guys can do Consumer Energy Alliance. And then Matt, you and I can do Partnership for Energy Progress. Okay, so we just got done wrangling some words from Utility Front Group ads, and I put them into the cloud generator, and this is the cloud that was generated. So already the biggest word I see is gas, and then other words that stand out are Washington, politicians, renewable prices, high prices, high gas prices. Yeah, renewable natural gas, politicians hurting our pockets. So, oh yeah, this is just really interesting. And it's also interesting, like the difference in approaches, like as we were saying when the recording stopped, Partnership for Partnership for Energy Progress, they were more had more positive messaging, like trying to rebrand renewable natural gas as the future of clean energy, versus Consumer Energy Alliance trying to blame politicians in Washington for high gas prices. So, okay, that was really fun. I liked that. Okay, so we can move on. Does anyone have any questions or thoughts so far, or things that stood out to you in the word cloud?
Yeah, this is Liz. I mean, for me, I think it's interesting, you know, all the messaging I was looking at from the Consumer Energy Alliance was around like high gas prices. Tell Washington politicians to do something about high gas prices.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I think I also want people to tell politicians to do something about gas prices, but I want them to invest in local distributed clean energy efficiency, and, you know, electrification and programs to lower energy burden to help lower people's costs and bring them more benefits. And not what I think these groups all want is opening up, like reducing regulation, environmental regulations on oil and gas to allow for more drilling in the Gulf. The campaign I was looking at, I think, was like Open the Gulf, which I thought was interesting because it seems like it's already open. So that's what I thought.
Yeah. Anyone else had thoughts about the little exercise?
Thanks for doing that, Shelby. Really cool.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so we will continue then. We are going to get our hands even dirtier and surprise, another tutorial. So this one is more so like, how do you actually use the Facebook ad library if you wanted to look up ads from a certain candidate or a certain front group, and you wanted to get a little bit deeper into learning about what are some of the patterns that might exist in the data in terms of like spending or messaging or the timing of ads. So to do that, we are going to do a sample request. So the request is trying to figure out how much did seniors across America spend on ads in 2022 compared to 2021 and 2020. So I'll be sharing my screen throughout this process, but if you have any questions or want to do it as well, feel free. So the first thing that we have to do, obviously, is go back to Facebook ad library. And, let's say that you didn't know how to get there. You can start from Google and you can just type in Facebook ad library. And the first link that pops up is the search bar. So you can focus on United States if you'd like. You can click issues, elections, or politics, and then type in the group that you're interested in, which is Seniors Across America. So these are showing all of the ads that Seniors Across America has done. We want to actually export this data via a CSV file. So you'll click Export CSV. Before you do that, though, you want to make sure that you have the right date ranges. So I would click Filters and then choose your date range. So just make sure that it's set for the time period that you want. Obviously, you want from the beginning of time for here, which is May 7th, 2018, and then to today's date, which is the 16th. So apply filter, that may take a minute, and then you can export the CSV. According to Facebook or Meta, you can only request 3 exports a day. So just keep that in mind. Click Yes, Export, and it may take a few minutes for the download or for the data to be prepared. So I actually downloaded it yesterday ahead of time to save us some time. So I'm going to open up that file on my computer. It will come as a CSV or as a zip file. You can open it up as a CSV. And oops, that's not what I want. I actually want it as an Excel file. Okay, it's taking its sweet time. Oh, okay, here it is. So this is, well, actually, this is the file that I edited or worked on. Let me try it again. Okay, so this is what it will look like. This is a lot of information. If you don't like spreadsheets, this may be a little overwhelming, but these are all of the ads that Seniors Across America has ran since 2018 to 2022. This fields that you're going to care about the most for this request, which is finding out how much they spent in 2022, 2021, and 2020, are ad creation time. So I'll make this yellow. And then also spend. What's kind of annoying about the data is it gets exported in this weird format. So this is JSON kind of format. We're going to use some Excel calculations to make this a little bit cleaner. So the first thing that we'll do is copy these 2 fields and paste them into a separate tab. And now we want to make this actually year. So to do that, we go over here to number, click general. We're going to change the formatting so we just get the year. So you can go to custom. Let's see if they have it. Okay, I may not be able to create my own, I think. Yeah, so you'll create your own fields or create your own custom format. So for here, we just wanted to get the year. So we're halfway there. Going back to the steps that we have here. The first one was to go to that library, download the data. We create a year field, and now we're going to create a lower bound field. And to do that, we'll use this very ugly Excel calculation. So this will be lower spend. And so we'll insert our formula. Okay, so we did some Excel magic, and now we've gotten the value of the lower spend. So we can just click it twice, and now we have the spending for the year and the amount. And we just want to make sure this is being read as a number. So make sure you click number for the format. Okay, so we are almost there. The last thing that we're going to do is create a pivot table. So I'm going to make one more sheet, and I'm going to copy these two columns, and I'm going to just paste their values in number formatting. So we get an error here that says number is stored as text. So we'll convert this to number. Trying to figure out how to do the same thing for the rest of it. Okay. 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 Yeah, we have to fix this. So let me figure out, it's still being viewed as a text. So we want to actually make sure it's being viewed as a value so that we can do the proper calculation. So we'll go to number. That's so annoying. Okay. Well, it's so tedious to click this. Okay, so they're going to show us how to do this. Nice. So we'll select the column. Yes. We'll go to data and then text to columns and then finish. Okay, so now we've got the format working. So that was a little bit of a hiccup, but basically this was being viewed as a text and not a number. So we had to copy the whole column, go to data, and then click text to numbers, and now it's being read properly. Okay, so now we can create our pivot table. So to do that, we select both columns. We go to insert, tables, and then pivot. Click OK. And now we get to select the fields. Okay, so for columns, let's try doing this. Okay, and then for values, let's do lower spend, and that's it. So now we can answer the request. So the request was, how much did seniors across America spend on ads in 2022 compared to the previous years? In 2021, they spent $5,100 on ads, and in 2022, they spent $115,000. And it also breaks it down by quarter as well, and you can also break it down by the months. So they spent a lot more money in the third quarter, so in July, August, September as well, and that could be like they were gearing up towards election season. That's one hypothesis. Yeah, they spent a lot in October as well. So yeah, it's really interesting. So this is a great way to kind of take the data that you get from Facebook. It's kind of ugly, but if you just focus on those fields that you care about, and then clean up the data a little bit, fix the formatting, then you can create those pivot tables to look further into the data. Liz, you're going to say something?
Oh, yeah, I was just gonna say, and then I think their investment in the earlier part of the year is, I mean, in Florida in particular, around influencing legislation and legislative sessions that are generally going on in that time period. So that is interesting that the spending is around the legislative sessions and then elections.
Yeah, and then that's a good point, because here in April it's 0, and at that point the legislative session's over, and then they gear up again. So this is a really good way just to see the cycle or patterns in the spending, and maybe a good time to think about when to land like opposition pieces to combat or prepare for that narrative. Okay, so does anyone have any other questions about how to do this? And then there's also some steps here in case you want to do this in the future as well. Okay, and then I will let Carrie Ann talk about these final other best practices.
Cool. Yeah, so you can see why Shelby's tool is so useful to us, and tracking spending is so much easier that way. But I can tell you a little bit about what I was doing before we had that tool and the ways in which I think it could still be useful, particularly if you're tracking front groups at a much smaller scale. So if you're tracking, 1 to 3 front groups, I think this could still be really useful. So I'll share my screen quickly. Okay. All right. And we have, cool. And so can you see the spreadsheet?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Right. So Shelby showed us what the data looks like when you just download a CSV. And it's important to note that you can only download 3 CSVs at a time. There are a couple ways in which I'm looking into skirting that, but as of now, it's important to plan for it. So you can download 3 CSVs a day. And so if you're looking at multiple front groups, just having some sort of cycling schedule or making sure you have a weekly scheduled time or weekly or monthly, whatever you're hoping to find, to schedule downloading those CSVs so you don't lose information. And then we, pulled from that what we wanted to best organize. So making sure you're staying on top of organization is also really important. And the cost column actually comes in one column, and I separated them into 2 and I thought we would still need it to input data. So that's not something you would have to do, but I think that is where it's most helpful, is to be able to just scroll through your sheet and find where seniors across America is spending the most money on which particular ads. So what the CSV does not give you is the URL to the specific ad, but they give you the archive ID and the page ID, which is all you need. So Shelby showed me how to use the I'm going to keep messing that up, but a function in Excel, concatenate function. And so I have the formula here. You're welcome to use it. And then the numbers in red are the specific columns. So obviously that would change based on your Excel sheet. But you can just copy that, insert it into a column as your URL, and then you'll have this ad specific URL for each of these, so that when you want to look at the ad they spent the most on, and if you look at groups like Natural Allies, right, some of their spending is upwards of $10,000 for an ad. Let's see if I can find one of those. Anyway, so yeah, there's a large range in which a group might spend on a single ad or a single ad campaign. Sometimes they're grouped into multiple ads, but all for the same campaign, all the same ad, but they spent different amounts to have it dispersed throughout either a month or a couple of months. And so that's definitely, those are things you can think about, and why, if you aren't trying to exclusively track spending, you're looking more into the qualitative analysis of their disinformation and any misleading information they're sharing. That's where downloading the CSVs and using the Excel chart in this way could be really helpful, and obviously could easily transfer into a tool like Shelby's. So another thing is that from the Facebook ad library, you can sign up for email alerts. And so I believe here, yeah, so you can subscribe to email updates. And so if you're only tracking a couple of friend groups and you're not necessarily doing it on a regular basis, you don't have a coordinated project to do that, that could be a really useful thing to get updates on specific groups. And then further, the last thing I would say is, when you're searching a friend group, so we have Consumer Energy Alliance, if you make sure that you're looking at the ad category of issues, elections, or politics, you have to have that in to see the disclaimers. And then you go to the groups page, which another thing is, you can't just type in the front group's name and expect to find all of their ads. You have to find the you have to go under the advertisers and click the specific advertisers page, because otherwise you'll get a lot of different ads from anything that relates to the words Consumer Energy Alliance. So make sure you do that, and then make sure you're looking at issues, elections, or politics. And if you go to about, then you'll get a disclaimer at the bottom of how much they've spent and how much they've spent in the last week, which the week after elections, it makes sense that they haven't spent any money. But if you're leading up to a significant date like an election day, checking that for the 3 or 4 weeks prior and seeing how they're raising or how they're spending more money in those 3 or 4 weeks prior, or whatever period of time makes the most sense for you, can be an extremely helpful way of tracking them without needing to use the tool. But any questions on best practices and tips for using the Meta Ad Library?
This is Matt. When new groups pop up, where can we flag those for you all?
Oh, thank you so much for asking. If you go to the tracker, let me see. You can click on the page with the ad tool tracker. You can contact us and let us know that you've heard about a new front group, and we will look into including it onto our ad tracker. Any questions you have, you can click the link on our page. Or if you just go to our website, you can contact us that way as well.
Cool. I think this was awesome. I guess one question, comment. So this is just one way that these front groups are spending money, right? And this is just Facebook, or it's Meta, so that includes Instagram
Yep.
and Facebook. But this does not include ads on newspaper sites or Google ads or what billboards, or so there's all kinds of other things. This is just like a piece of the puzzle that we can actually like see the data for, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And if you're alarmed by the amount being spent on these ads, then yeah, keep in mind that that's not all they're spending on advertising.
Cool. And yeah, I don't know if there's any other ways to get at a lot of that other stuff is maybe less transparent and less accessible than this data.
You can track Google ads from what I understand. Here, I can copy.
All right, well,
That's
maybe we'll look out for more resources from EPI on tracking some of the other spending avenues.
Yeah, and so we were monitoring that for a period of time, but we just weren't getting very much, and so then decided to focus on the Meta Ad Library. But I imagine things would still pop up in Google Ads at various times. If you were monitoring a few groups, that would totally be within reason to alert yourself to just check the Google Ads.
Cool. Well, I think that's it, unless you all want to add anything else. But it sounds like you all will continue to update this resource, and we will make this available so people can hopefully learn how to do this themselves and dig into this data if they want to, and or reach out to you all if they have questions. Yeah, this was really great. That is a really awesome tool, and I look forward to sharing it and looking for more from you all at Energy and Policy Institute.
Thanks so much, Liz, and thanks for putting this together for us.
Yeah,
Thanks,
Liz, thank you so much. And thanks, Shelby.
No problem. Thanks, Carrie Ann.